What's up, y'all? Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk. Before I get into it, hit that subscription button and hit that notification bell. Make sure you like and tell all your friends we are here. We got playlists, we got unboxings, we got Jack going through his comic books, we got Chris doing toy runs. We have everything on this channel. So subscribe and hit that notification bell. Today, we're talking Disney's Pinocchio.
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 Now,
What are you, Mario?
That's how he sounded.
Pinocchio.
It's me.
it is Italian.
Yeah.
I don't think I needed to really do a spoiler-free
It's been around since
recap
the 40s,
because it's been around since the 40s. So let's just give
People
our
have seen it.
spoiler-free. We'll give our spoiler-free thoughts, and then we'll get into the deep dive. I'll go first. You do not need to watch this movie. Just watch the original. It's way more compelling and way more thrilling. And if you did watch this movie, don't watch the original, because then you'll realize what you watched wasn't as compelling. That's what I have to say.
Tom Hanks is phenomenal in this film. He's pretty fun to watch. That's my opinion. I enjoyed it. It looks pretty much exactly like the original cartoon.
Yep.
So in that regard, it's incredibly faithful to the content with some slight deviations. Other than that, I thought it was enjoyable. If you liked the cartoon, you'll probably enjoy this as much, maybe not, but you won't not like it.
We'll get into it.
Ooh, I can't wait.
It delivers exactly what it promises, which is Pinocchio, live action Pinocchio, which it is, with one huge caveat, which I'll talk in our spoiler section.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna say Castaway 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay. A moment of it.
A little
But I
moment
mean,
of Castaway 2. And it was Pinocchio was in it. Tom Hanks was good.
Yeah.
And it was a movie. I
There you
definitely
go.
watched
All
a 2-hour
accurate.
movie. That was a thing. That's pretty much all I can say.
You've never been more right, Rich.
Yeah.
Lauren,
You hit all the bullet points.
can we hear the synopsis?
You want a synopsis of this?
I would love to hear what the synopsis of this is.
Okay,
Personally.
man. Okay, I'll give it to you. Let's look up the synopsis of Disney's Pinocchio. A puppet is brought to life by a fairy who assigns him to lead a virtuous life in order to become a real boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 1940s of synopsis: a living puppet with the help of a cricket as his conscience must prove himself worthy to become a real boy. Even the synopsis is better from the 1940s one. It's even more specific.
That synopsis would have fit for this, though.
Because it's this. It
Yeah.
would
It's the
have.
same thing.
All right, so
All right.
let's hash it out.
Let's
Lawrence
hash it
clearly
out.
didn't like it, nor
No, I didn't
Rich
like it.
Pierce.
I didn't like
Chris?
it. I didn't like it.
I
Maybe
liked
you
it.
liked
I mean, yeah, I like it. It was all right.
All right, we just gonna jump in. Let's just jump around and jump into this. We need to recap a movie that was basically the 1940s. Most people saw a version of this.
Unless you were born after the 1940s, maybe you missed it.
That's true. Maybe, but you might. Yeah,
You could be a millennial and you somehow missed, because a lot of people actually missed those Disney movies because there wasn't the Disney streaming platform. And you might not know this. If you wanted to buy an old Disney cartoon, they never depreciated in value. So if you ever went to the store and thought, man, I'll buy that movie from the 1940s, it was still selling for like $30.
Well, they'd also have the vault before streaming where they would have they'd only release things every periodically.
Yes. So it's very possible someone listening to this.
You're right. I was being insensitive. Insensitive to the youth. Let's recap this bad boy. So we start with Tom Hanks as Geppetto, and he's kind of singing the song. You get that he's lonely, and he's making this puppet, and you see that he's just an inventor. And visually, this thing is freaking stunning, and it gives us what the cartoon movie didn't. It just gave us a little bit of backstory as to why he's making this puppet. And you see a picture of this boy.
That. I didn't need that.
I appreciated that.
Nah, see, I didn't need that. It put such a dark cloud over. So Geppetto went from a lonely man making a puppet to a guy who's trying to recreate his child that he lost, which is so freaking sad. I didn't need that in this movie.
But the original Pinocchio movie is a dark, sad movie. The original
It is.
Pinocchio is freaking scary.
Yeah.
This actually fits closer to
I guess
the
I still did.
1940s.
Maybe because we're dad now. I just didn't need that.
Oh, as a dad, I appreciate. I'm like,
Yeah, and the backstory with even the clocks made more sense now. Why
His
we
wife
sell
that
them.
liked it.
he
Yeah.
kind of was just alone in the
He
cartoon. But
lost
here,
everybody.
yeah.
Well, what they left out of this version is he lost both wife and child in a carriage accident, which was horrific at the time.
Yeah. Now the
I just made
clocks.
that up, guys.
Oh, you should write for Disney.
Yeah,
It's freaking wonderful.
I was buying it. It made all
I was
sense
with
in
it.
the
I
world.
was too, because I was
Yeah.
like, I was looking at the origins of the Pinocchio story. I'm like, yo, it's a dark story.
Well,
It
the
is a
original
dark
fairy
story.
tale.
Yeah.
And then even the original Disney movie, it's freaking dark. All them clocks go, we get cameos from all the characters, and I was okay with one, Woody, and then I was okay with like enchantment, but I didn't understand like so Roger Rabbit. So they
Yeah.
had women in like dresses and heels like that in this
Yeah.
time period.
right.
Yeah.
That was odd.
I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I think I'm seeing what this movie's doing. I'll ignore it. Let's keep moving on.
Yeah.
So basically, Geppetto makes a wish on a shooting star. He makes the wish. Well, I'm so sorry. The movie opens with freaking Jiminy Cricket, and as a narrator, also chronicling like this is his
Joseph
journey.
Gordon-Levitt, by the
Who
way,
actually killed this? I didn't know that was him.
killed it.
Yeah.
Killed it. I was like, who is this
And the
voice?
kid who they cast as Pinocchio actually looks like Pinocchio.
And his voice was perfect.
So spot
That's
on.
great casting. Great casting all around. So then Geppetto makes a wish. He goes to sleep, and then the fairy comes, and she turns Pinocchio into a boy and says, you'll be a real boy if you prove yourself brave, honest, all the things that make a good person good. Then he can be a real boy. And Jiminy Cricket, you're going to be his conscience. Who, me? I can't be his conscience. Yes, you will be his conscience. And she gives him a new suit, and he's like, I'll be his conscience.
Give me the fly threads.
Oh,
I'll do whatever you say, fairy.
Whatever you want me to do in this suit.
All right, first of all, can we talk about how this man is sleeping in the room with all this noise and does not wake up on the first floor of his building with his window wide open? Like, how has he not been robbed yet?
Magic. It's magic.
Reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, what was odd to me wasn't that he didn't wake up. What was odd to me was that Jiminy did wake up because she literally stops time. That's why all the clocks stop.
Oh.
Maybe she did it on purpose because she wanted him to be. She
Yeah.
already knew she was setting this thing up.
Well, she's magic.
She's
Use
magic. And what's very different than the cartoon, this is kind of her last appearance in this movie. When the cartoon, she shows up a number of times to help Pinocchio in the cartoon.
Yeah.
So they already kind of switched it. And they gave her the song instead of Jiminy Cricket, which is interesting. I think it just, Wish Upon a Star, it sounds sadder in the cartoon with the male voice. It's something deeply sad, whereas here it sounded hopeful. Still beautiful, but different. So then basically Geppetto wakes up and he's going, ow, my puppet. It's alive. It is alive.
Right, just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that.
He's like, we can be a family. And then they become a family. Now, what this movie does, which is really cool, is when the cartoon is like, the puppet's alive, go to school. Here, it shows you they spent a lot of time together before he shipped them off to school. So they kind of created their relationship a little bit more.
So this is where the movie gets weird to me. When he finally sends the kid to school, we start meeting some of the other things that live in the town. In the movie, when I watched the movie, even though, yes, some of the other characters weren't necessarily human form, they always felt like there was human, and the kid was the odd one out because that doesn't exist. In this movie, we literally see, anthropomorphic creatures that are like creature humans, and so instantly, for some weird reason, a walking wooden boy isn't as interesting as a walking wooden fox and cat and all these other things.
And they made it work in the cartoon, but here I'm like, this is
it was weird. It both did and didn't work for me.
It's a
like
magical world.
I liked it.
Is it a magical world?
They're not magical creatures. They're just like regular dudes.
It's still a magical. I mean, yeah, it's a magical world. If a fairy shows up, it's a magical world. So they're probably like, we're in Italy. Things happen.
It's
I
happening.
mind my own business.
here's how
This
it works
puppet
for
walk. I
me.
don't care.
We never actually see those two particular characters, the fox and the cat, interact with anything other than Pinocchio.
Right.
And I think if I had seen them talking to the master puppeteer or any of the town folk, then that would have been incredibly odd to try to navigate. So the
Yeah.
fact that they kept it so isolated, that's why I say it kind of worked, but it also was odd to me. It was odd that Pinocchio was so special in this setting where clearly they're not the only creatures walking around like this in this world, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
This area is also my first big red flag. In the cartoon, Pinocchio kind of goes with them and says, "Okay, I'll skip school to be famous," because he's going on his morality story. Here, he rejects them for a couple times, showing that he is a good kid. And then Jiminy Cricket actually gets him to go to school, so he actually did good. He goes to school, he gets kicked out of school, then decides I'll go be an actor. Technically, he didn't. You got kicked out of school, and then you decide to do this because they won't have you.
Right.
He
So
didn't do
you're not really
anything.
breaking any rules because
No, but the cartoon, the point is, his dad told him to go to school, and he didn't go
right.
because he's supposed to be doing these things, consequences. The cartoon shows you consequences for every action for doing bad as a boy. This movie's watering it down already in the beginning. It's not his fault.
And
Listen,
that's
they don't
especially
want
true.
people. They don't want these kids out here quitting school to become influencers and actors. That's why.
But the
Actors are a
cautionary
plague in
tale
our
is,
society.
but that's the thing. He doesn't go to school in the cartoon, and all these bad things happen to him. It was a cautionary tale.
Right.
Here is like, you got kicked out of school.
Right.
Might as well be an actor.
Right. Yeah, I thought about that too. And I mean the other part of the movie that really gets watered down in comparison to the cartoon is the what is it called? Paradise Island?
Yeah.
Oh,
Do they smoke cigars and stuff there too?
they drank beer.
It's beer, not root beer. It's beer and it's cigars.
Yes.
And that was the moment where I understood why they made it a point to say root beer, although it looked like the beer from the cartoon with the
It
foam
was
and everything.
root beer is not that light and doesn't
But it was
foam like
the
that.
it was really the cigars. I got it right. It's like the same thing that happened with Colin Farrell when he was playing the Penguin.
They
He
wouldn't
was
let him have
like,
a cigarette. Yeah.
yeah, they wouldn't let him have the iconic cigarette shout out, and that was Warner Brothers. So this is Disney not endorsing
But the
cigars.
problem is, Pinocchio goes to this island in the cartoon. Well, in the cartoon, he goes with them. He's not like kidnapped on the side of the road.
Right.
It's like he makes the choice to go with them.
Yeah, here he's
Consequences.
taken.
Here he's taken, so he's still not really doing anything wrong. So it's watering down
It's the same theme. It's the same theme. It's not him making those choices. It's him being forced into those situations.
which is why this movie to me is not good and it's troublesome, because the whole point is this is a morality tale. So here now they took out the beer and alcohol. So you're basically saying kids that drink too much soda and get hyperactive now deserve severe punishment. Like that's the the consequences are.
Well, I was confused why Pinocchio transformed in this version, because in the other version he was doing the vices that the other kids were also.
Yeah, that's true. He was saying no because he was like, "I'm not smashing those clocks," and even his friend was like, "You're a goody goody."
He took a sip of the root beer.
He could drink soda.
No, but I think that's the thing.
Beer. And he was playing pool, maybe.
First of all,
he was having in the cartoon. He literally says it's fun being bad.
Yeah,
like they really cement.
He like doing hood rat things with his friends.
and that's also why, you're right. Like if you look at the cartoon, like even the lying wasn't highlighted in this. The lying, the way it played out in this was once he realized he could grow his nose, he was kind of just doing it to get to the key the whole time.
Well, if I lie, I can get what I want.
Well, he did lie at first when he was in the cage to Jiminy. The first couple of lies were real. And then he started lying when he realized he could get the key.
Chris, in the cartoon, when he lies and his nose grows, it literally grows until it turns into a bird's nest. And birds hatch, and then the nest dies and the nose starts to decay. And then he says, I won't lie anymore. Then the fairy says, okay, and gives him his nose back. So literally they showed you like if you lie, although it seems fruitful, it will lead to death. In this movie, it's like if you lie enough, you'll get what you want.
Yeah,
And
and
that's
I
what
real
happened.
remember
life. That's
I
just
remember
like
being a
real life.
kid watching.
Sounds like
That's
real
the
life to me.
morality tale here. It's terrible.
Yeah, I remember being a kid, and that's what didn't land about this movie. Like as a kid, I remember thinking the consequences of lying, right? And my
Mm-hmm.
parents used that against me, and I was like, well, maybe it's gonna be a real thing. So, and that you're right, Lawrence. That element of the film does not land almost every single time. The morality and the what's the moral of the story? The moral of the
Mm-hmm.
story: don't lie. The moral of the story: don't drink and smoke and break. The moral of the
Go to
story:
school
don't.
and
Yeah. And that definitely doesn't land in this.
then and without it landing, I'm like, then what's the point of Pinocchio? Like, what's the point?
That's
That's the
fair.
point of Pinocchio.
Mhm.
And but there were good moments. I really like the addition of the woman, the dancer who can't dance,
Yeah.
and she has the doll because I'm like, oh, this is cool. He doesn't trust people anymore because he's been burned, but he can talk to her through this puppet. I thought that's a nice addition.
I didn't understand that puppet because the face was moving on that puppet like
It was
alive.
magic and alive also.
Yeah.
Well, because puppets blink in real life.
Right. And
Eyebrows
smiles.
furrow and everything. I'm like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
So
Well, I
yeah,
actually had a problem with that too because that took again. Those are elements that took away from the specialness of Pinocchio. For
right.
that puppet to have been added to the show, I thought was cool. But then for the puppet to, and it's not like we saw the puppet from Pinocchio's point of view, and to him
Mhm.
it felt akin and real. We just saw the puppet, and the puppet had human, there's the name of it, like Amelie had moments of surrealism. It's like the puppet that she was animating was also alive, so it
Yeah.
took away from
Yeah.
Pinocchio's
There,
magicalness.
there were a couple of things in here where they wanted it to just look really cool. So they made her more alive. They gave Pinocchio superpowers, like he can speed swim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
even did a superhero landing
He
out of
did
the
do
water.
superhero landing.
And I'm
Yes,
like,
he did.
guys, just trust your content. I want to go back a little bit. When he was in at Paradise, whatever it's called.
Wait, hold on.
Pleasure
Before you
Island.
talk about Pleasure
Yeah,
Island, which sounds
Pleasure
like
Island, excuse me.
a place that you go throw denomination of singles to women. Can we talk about
Or men,
the
Rich. Let's
okay,
not get
men
crazy
too?
here.
All
Okay,
right,
thank you,
all
thank
right.
you.
I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
sorry for all you male strippers out there. Sorry,
They're
but
working hard for their money too, Rich. Don't
can we
do
talk
that.
about the 1940s New York? Like they were in Italy, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where did this New York boy come from?
Oh
What
yeah,
was that?
that's fair.
He wasn't even like a New York boy. He was like he was like a newsie. He came from the set of Newsies, and he
Yeah.
showed up.
Hey,
I'm picturing him like
you just want to be
straight up
you
in
want
New
to be a
York,
jerk?
just throwing
You want
out
to be a jerk?
papers like, "Hey, he's a hey." I'm like, what is? Who is this kid?
That's kind
Who is
of
this
the vibe
kid?
of the cartoon version of him, though, wasn't it?
I
Was
think
it?
so.
Yeah, he wasn't Italian. As a matter of fact, in the cartoon, the only one who was Italian was the father.
Geppetto, right? The only one that
Yeah.
had the
Yeah.
accent.
Oh.
I think it felt more on the nose here. But I want to talk about him. In the cartoon, when he turns into a donkey and he starts talking to his captor, and the captor's like, a talking donkey, look at that. The kid screams, I want to go home to my mommy. And he
Yeah.
says, nope. And he grabs him. And this kid's never going home to his parents. Like
Yeah.
they showed you
Yeah.
the consequences of being
Well,
bad here.
I'm glad that kid, when he changed in a donkey, and you saw him, like you saw like the shadow of him change, and then he like broke out
That
and
looked great.
disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was no rescuing him. Like it just like the originally, there was no rescuing him.
But the
He's
fact that
done so.
he screamed, I want to go home to my mommy. And
Yeah.
it's
It
like,
wasn't
no, you
as
don't get to.
severe.
And Pinocchio in the movie, in the cartoon, when he sprouts those ears and has that tail, he keeps that for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
He doesn't get
Yeah.
rid of that until the very end when he's turned into a real boy. So it's saying, no, there's consequences to your actions. And even if you have a bad consequence attached to you, you can still go on and save the day. With
Yeah.
ears and a tail, you can still save the day. Here, he got rid of that ears and tail. I don't even remember how it just disappeared.
Oh, because he said something to Marionette that was like heartfelt and whatever, and then they
Well,
just
he said he was
disappeared.
going to go get his dad instead of join the
Oh,
puppet
what?
show.
Yeah.
In the cartoon, he went and got his dad with the ears and tail. Because it's like consequences don't just go away because you had a good moment.
Facts.
So
that's true.
So like just the level of depth in the 19. I'm not the biggest fan of the live action remakes. They kind of all feel unnecessary, except Jungle Book. Jungle Book is fire. Jungle Book's dope. But here I was like, this has to be better than the 1940s cartoon. Like it can only go up from there. I was shocked.
Well, they were less sensitive. They were less woke. They could say what they want.
I did
but it's
think
not even woke. It's like, don't cut school. Like we're avoiding that.
It's watered down though. Even the message is watered
but
down.
it wasn't even don't cut school because he went to school.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong.
Which is weird.
He kind of didn't do anything wrong.
When he was in the cage when Jiminy Cricket's like, why didn't you go to school? And he starts lying. He didn't have to lie. They kicked me out of school. So then I went over here. Like he actually didn't have to lie in that moment. It was forced.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Because he didn't do anything wrong. So what's the morality tale?
There's no point to this movie.
None. Rich. There was no point. It looked great. The actors were fantastic.
Like she might have just came in and just turned him to a real boy right then and there because he was already a good kid.
Pretty much. Instead of a wooden boy. Dude, when his nose grew in the cartoon, the fairy says a boy that doesn't do good is as good as a boy made of wood. She was like, if you do good, you don't deserve life if you don't do good. You have to
the other
earn
thing,
it.
this movie, by the end of it,
yes,
it's kind of left ambiguous as to whether he actually gets to be a real boy.
That's my biggest caveat. Let's get to that. First of all, why isn't the whale just a whale? Why is it a sea monster?
Well, no, I will say in the original book, it was described more like this than the whale in the cartoon. So they kind of use the book there.
Right.
I'll give you that.
I'm not. I mean,
all right, but
why can he outswim it?
Well, he's Quicksilver.
Like he's made of pine, Chris. If you didn't know, they told you a million times. Pinocchio.
Pinocchio.
Chris Pine. It's just dating itself. So yes, okay. So then we skipped a whole lot, but you guys, what we're talking about.
That's interesting too. Where the other movie is timeless.
Yeah, they added so many things in here that date it, like they don't trust the material. So basically, he goes to get his father, who pretty much got in trouble trying to rescue him. He goes into this monstro, something like that, and they're in the whale, and they basically get out, and they are swimming to the beach to get away from them.
But before that, when he went back to the shop, all the clocks were gone.
He sold them all.
He sold them all to buy a little dinghy.
Yeah, the buy that little.
I was confused about that actually too. When I saw the boat he was in, which is reminiscent of the one he has in the cartoon, I thought that guy offered him like 50 whatever for the one clock.
Right.
And I was like, how much do I think that boat cost? 200 maybe?
The guy was probably like, you're desperate, Geppetto. Look, I got $100 on me.
But he had like 100 clocks.
$100, bro. Like, you need it.
You need it.
What you want to do?
Yeah.
For me, it was the emotional weight. Like they set up the beginning telling you how important these are to him. And then he kind of just tells them. But I didn't get
But the value didn't translate in what we saw what he got for it.
Yeah, he should have like a Chris Craft boat.
It would have meant as much if he just sold the one clock to the guy. You know what I mean? Like the one clock to the one guy who we saw in the beginning instead of the whole wall of clocks, and he's got a shit boat.
But do we need to see it though? Like they set up these clocks that mean so much to him. Do we need that scene of watching him part with it?
No, because we already know that we know that the kid means everything to Geppetto, and the Geppetto and Pinocchio knows that Geppetto loves him. So did we need that for Pinocchio to
Why did
realize.
Geppetto just borrow a boat? Does it take more time to take down all your clocks, sell your clocks, and then get the money? Why can't you just, hey, yo, Stefano, let me borrow your boat. Let me hold on to your boat for an hour. I'll be right back. All right, cool.
With that being said, all of this happened in one day.
Now that was the funniest line in the world. When Geppetto
killed
was
it.
like, "You did all that in one day."
Killed it.
Tom Hanks killed
Tom
that
Hanks
line.
killed that moment.
And yes, I was like, this did it. This was one long day.
Yeah.
Was it one long day in the cartoon?
No, it was 2 days. He saw him on the day 2.
Right. Yeah. Because
because night happened. And
I mean, the first chunk of the movie is like months, and then from school to the next, and then there's 2 days that go for the rest of the film.
Man. So let's get to the beach.
Yes, please.
Right. They wash up on the beach. Pinocchio's kind of in the water. It doesn't take place at the end of the cartoon. You know, they make it back home. This is here. But Pinocchio coughs up water. He's alive, completely changing the end.
So why would you take this liberty? This is the whole message of the movie. Pinocchio makes this huge sacrifice. He sacrifices himself to save himself for, he's being selfless, and that's what turns him into a boy. They reverse it, have Geppetto being the one who's hurt, and then this part really bothered me.
Because the little boy singing "Wish Upon a Star" undid all of my issues because it sounds so pure and innocent. But I still needed him to turn to a boy. In the cartoon, he was dead. Pinocchio died at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was huge. How have I been okay with the reversal? But then you got Jiminy Cricket over here chronicling the story. This narrator who knows the whole story goes, does he turn into a boy?
We don't know.
I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Are you the narrator or not? Do you know the story or not?
Damn, kind of the worst damn conscience I've ever heard in my life.
I'm like, but what do you say?
Just tell us the damn truth, Jiminy.
Yeah, he was telling us the story up to this point.
He's still in detail. And when he turned, and then they kind of give you a symbolism of maybe he was a boy, and you see him turn to a real boy as he's walking. It was CGI still.
Yeah, it was a cartoon.
Why did it just have the kid?
That makes no sense. Why is it CGI still when he turned into a real boy? And I don't think he turns into a real boy because Geppetto had this whole speech. Now this is what kills me, Geppetto, because he says, "I don't want you to change. You're as real as I need you to be." You're. He's like, I'm wrong for wanting you to be anything but who you are. And I'm like, that is dope if this was Geppetto's story, but this is Pinocchio's story.
This was the goal of the whole entire movie, the whole time.
He wanted to be a real boy.
Yeah.
It's not like you're forcing it on him.
Right.
I feel like that line was almost political in nature.
Very.
Yeah.
Right.
Very.
And it actually betrays I'm sorry, it kind of does, but it also betrays what the protagonist of the story also wanted.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, that's not necessarily true, though, because in the cartoon, Pinocchio very much, he wanted to be a real boy because he wanted to be a real boy. In this movie, he wanted to be a real boy because he wanted his father to love him and he wanted his father to be proud of him. And he knew that in order to be a real boy, he had to do X, Y, Z. So his desire to be a real boy was tethered to his father's desire to have a real boy.
Which cheapens the whole experience because now you have him going on a hero's journey that's not even for him with a morality tale that's already watered down. So he doesn't. What was the point?
What does he really learn? He didn't do anything wrong. So what does he really learn at the end? And
they're both if Pinocchio never went to school that morning, I don't think him and Geppetto's relationship is any more rich than they're literally the same as they start.
Well, because what did Pinocchio learn? In the cartoon, if we're comparing it to the cartoon, yes, Pinocchio goes on a journey and he learns character and he develops and evolves. In this, he's kind of the victim of everything. He's not the catalyst for everything.
Right,
and
it's
so
true.
What
he gets kidnapped.
I'll tell you what he learned. He learned not to trust real people except for his father and only trust puppets.
That's true.
That's fair. Actually, that's fair.
Well,
he actually learned a lot.
Yeah.
And Chris, that's the reason why I'm like, I poo-pooed on this.
I get it. And you're right for feeling that way because now that we talk about unpack it, there's a lot of mistakes, but I took it from a very, very superficial, like, do I see a lot of the cartoon in real life? Not real life, live action, sorry.
Go
Live
back,
action.
go on YouTube and watch some. And the cartoon's terrifying, by the way. Like I
It
remember being
is.
scared as a kid. The donkey thing
The
was,
donkey
was
stuff
freaky.
was
Yeah, Donkey was,
traumatizing.
yeah.
Go watch the cartoon and you'll be like this movie's good if you've never seen Pinocchio, and you'll probably still forget it in like a week or so. But if you've watched the old cartoon and it's like still in your memory, it doesn't impact you the same way.
Yeah.
And when he did not turn, I came here to see him turn into a real boy. If anything
Yeah.
else, Simba has to become king at the end. The beast has to turn into a prince. The
Yep.
frog has to turn into a prince, and Pinocchio
Right.
has to turn into a real boy. Cinderella got to get her slipper on.
There
Like,
it
don't
is.
mess with it though.
It's true.
Do whatever you want in the middle. The beginning, he makes a puppet, and in the end, he's a real boy. Have a field day in the middle, and they
Yeah.
messed with my money.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you this. Sebastian watching it, because my 4-year-old is a target audience for this. It was hard to keep him engaged towards the middle and the end. He was way more engaged during Prey than he was during Pinocchio.
Wow.
Good
Well,
boy.
I
You're
wanted
raising
to.
them right.
Yeah.
I was curious because all of this, they're making it so it's, I think, not unwatchable as hard, but then it's not as easily watchable for adults sitting with their kids as the older stuff was. Like you can sit with Lion King with your kids and everyone's having a good time.
Right.
So if you're telling me your kid didn't even enjoy it
Yeah.
and it wasn't made for you and your wife, who's it hitting? Like
I
who's
don't know.
it for?
I don't know. Maybe my son. My son is. He's all about superheroes and fighting, explosions
That's
now.
why
So
they gave him superpowers and gave him a super lane. They're like, we need to kid him.
maybe that's why. But I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. And if I go by that gauge, then the movies was not successful. But
Man,
I don't know.
it's a tough one, man. It was like the candy you love that's filled with like the that chocolate that's really good, but there was nothing in the middle of this candy. Like you bit into it and there's like air inside.
Yeah.
The shell's still good, but you're
I
like
kept
there
thinking
used to be
about
something in here.
how um Tom Hanks's experience on set must have been, because he's working with a CGI puppet that's not there. He's working with a CGI cat that's not there. He's working with a
Figaro.
CGI. Like
Fish.
everything around him is just it. Was he in a giant green screen set with like
Yeah,
props
Probably.
I
and
know.
stuff?
Why did the cat have to be like some things were CGI that I felt like didn't have to be
I
that
think
made
they
it
want.
so
I think they want to give that kind of the emotion that was expressed through Cleo and Figaro. They
Yeah.
couldn't do that with a real cat, so you do a
Like,
CGI.
and they learned that when they did the Lion King. The Lion King might have actually went over better if they'd figured some of that out.
right. Maybe they did. I want to look at that. They might have did. Hopefully, they did motion capture, so at least the boy was still in front of them.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
That
But
would
the
have
boy
been.
they cast wasn't that small. Wasn't like that.
I have
If they
no
did
idea.
motion capture, they would have done motion capture like they do motion capture for all these things. And
Yeah, they would have
sometimes
hired.
it's there, but sometimes it's separate. He probably just had props he worked
They
with.
probably did it because besides
Yeah.
the Pinocchio, he'd be a 3-year-old. You ain't get a 3-year-old to do that stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
But the kid they cast was like, 12.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, he might have loved it though. He might have loved doing his one man show.
Yo, he killed it.
Sure.
Tom
I
Hanks
mean,
makes this movie watchable.
that first 20 minutes live and die with him because it's only him.
Yep.
He's just in the shop talking and singing and wishing and
And when we
hoping.
get back to him on the boat, the movie picked back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the things in the movie that make it exciting were there. It's just for me, some of the depth was gone. But I mean,
Yeah.
I
agree with
enjoyed
that.
the exciting parts, you know?
I agree with that. The heart of the story was actually missing. The point of the story was almost entirely missing.
Dude,
That's true.
when he lied and got the key ring on purpose, he lied on purpose to get the key. I'm like,
Yeah.
Now he has powers.
oh, we're done.
I
He
just
has
use his
superpowers.
powers. Yeah.
But it's like, I can lie on purpose and get out of things.
Yeah, there was no consequences.
Like, what? This is
Literally.
not my Pinocchio.
No.
But that's I think where we're at. Where do you guys rate this thing, man? Out of 10.
6.
Oh wow. Okay. So you're saying it's like a little bit better than than mediocre?
Yeah, I mean, it's still Disney. It's a
It's above
6.
average.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. It's nice of you.
Let me get my calculator out so I can do the average.
I'm gonna give this a 3.
Wow.
I'm gonna give it a 3. This is not Pinocchio. I don't know what this is. I mean, okay. This is a new age Pinocchio. I'll say it like that. But this ain't the Pinocchio that it's not teaching no lessons.
I respect that.
Pinocchio told me not to lie because the bad things happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
You drink
besides
beer,
the
you
fact,
turn to a donkey. And
Yeah.
actually, that's true. In real life, you drink too much beer, you do turn into a
Turn
jackass.
into an ass.
Yeah.
I mean, there were morals to the stories.
Yeah. Jack,
Mother F, man.
you started off saying you enjoyed this. By
I
the way.
did. I did. I enjoyed watching it because it was very visually very faithful adaptation, and I felt like Tom Hanks was such wonderful casting. And I thought, man, all those Italian actors screaming at the screen, why couldn't they just cast an Italian? These guys stealing my role. This movie was there's a guy out there who's literally
Of
Geppetto,
course.
just waited his whole life to play the part. And
This
Tom
is my
Hanks,
time to shine.
I'm like, but it's Tom Hanks, bro.
the
We're not
irony
gonna
of it.
rest the
But I
movie
thought,
on an unknown, dude.
he's the Everman, and he killed it. He was the Everman. He was just so enjoyable to watch. He brought so much heart to a movie that I think if there were anyone else in that role, I probably would have noticed all the stuff you brought to the surface in this conversation that is undeniable. You're absolutely right. In comparison, this movie lacks the point, lacks the poignancy. But I still enjoyed it. I thought it looked good. I would probably give it a 5.5 or a 6.
Which one, Jack?
Big one.
That 0.5 matters.
I would give the movie. Let's do this. I would give the movie 4 points just because Tom Hanks killed everything. I would give the movie a 1.5 for the visuals just being phenomenal. And I would give the movie 0.5 point for the story. Could have been way better.
So 6.
Like a 6?
6.
So I give it a 6.
All right. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Man, I give this movie a 3.
Ooh.
It is a 3. There it is. Because Jack, your issues with Watchmen is that there was one scene that undermined the entire point of the story. And for me, no matter how good this looks, no matter how much on the surface the beats work, no matter how great the cast was in Tom Hanks, they undermined the reason why this story even exists in the first place.
You're right.
And for that, you get a nice shiny 3.
That puts our average at 4.5 for Pinocchio.
And I'm a fan of all the actors. I'm a fan of Robert Zemeckis directed this. Freaking Back to the Future. Like, I'm a fan of everybody involved in this. But this is a morality tale.
Yeah.
And you taught my son if he lies, he can get out of cages. Yeah. And first, thank you, but that's besides the point. I'm happy you got out of the cage, but don't lie. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's what we have here for Pinocchio, man. Like I said in the beginning, if you enjoy this, check out. We got so many other reviews. Check our playlist. We got unboxings. We got comic book reviews. We got toy reviews. We got freaking shopping in Walmart with Chris. We got it all right here. We also got a podcast. Go check that out. Hit that notification bell. Become a subscriber. Like, tell your friends, and we'll see you next time. Peace. What's up, y'all? Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk.